romanto, Mr. Romanto.
Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to another all-new Geek to Me Radio. Today we are joined by legend of stage, TV, and movies, John Glover, talking all about his incredible career. We'll then leave our Captain Marvel review for you, spoiler-free, of course. All that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the St. Louis area right now, hearing this on 105.3 FM and 1380 AM, thank you very much for tuning in. If you're hearing us out there in the world, we know a lot of you stream us online. Thank you very much for finding us there. And of course, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast version on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Podomatic, we appreciate your subscribing and listening there each week. Great show today. This was one of the gets that I've wanted for a long time. He recently joined Twitter. John Glover is just everywhere, film, TV, stage. He's done it all, and I had a delightful time talking with him. Let's go ahead and get to that interview. We're talking now with John Glover, veteran of stage, film, TV, and voiceover work. Very busy in the con circuit and newly added to Twitter. John Glover, how are you?
Fine, he tweeted.
So you just got into
terrific.
Twitter very recently, and you've taken it by storm. You're very, very active on it. You've garnered a huge amount of followers, very playful with your contemporaries who are on there, like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill and Michael Rosenbaum. How did the decision to finally jump into Twitter come about for you, and how's the experience been so far?
I'm just testing it out, and it seems like a lot of fun, as long as we don't get political.
Right. You're going to offend somebody no matter what you do when you go that route.
Exactly. Yeah. But what are you going to do? You know, you do what the hen do, like my dad said. And I say, Dad, what's that? And he said, the best they can do.
That's perfect. And
Okay.
Growing up, you started theater very young. What got you into it? Where was what age did you feel the need to perform? Where did the bug bite you, as it were?
Well, I could usually always make people laugh. And I was like a misfit of a child, I think, but I had that power to make things laugh. But I was afraid that I couldn't be an actor. So I was in high school when they were doing a production of Lilium, and I went and tried out for it, but I was so weak they didn't notice me. So I was a stagehand. I changed the scenery and moved furniture around because it was it was a full round. So I started getting a lot of laughs each night. It was only 3 productions. But by the third night, I was getting a lot more laughs than the people on stage. So the director there noticed me. So the next year, I played the lead in The Importance of Being Earnest. And I guess I just knew something about something, but it was very successful. And then I went away to summer stock when I went to college down at the Barter Theater in Abingdon, Virginia. And that first summer, I finished my freshman year in college and got the lead in a play called Look Homeward Angel about Thomas Wolfe, kind of a biographical play about him. And then I just started acting and got jobs. I was very lucky. My friend Jane Cronin used to say, you're blessed, Glover, you're blessed. And I think she was right there. It's just a career, an actor's career is a kind of like a roller coaster. You're up, you're down, you're all around. You think you'll never work again, and then the phone rings and you get a job. It's a strange life, but it's what I've been able to do. So I am blessed.
And you've had a lot of ups. I mean, you stayed so busy, so much to talk about with your career in, like I said, stage and TV. And you're one of those actors, you're still doing stage. I know a lot of actors, they'll start out in the theater
and then they'll go to movies and TV, and sometimes they never look back. You must have such a love of the craft because you almost seamlessly transition from stage back into TV, do a little film, back to stage. Is that just from a love of the performance, or what would you attribute that to?
I need the theater. It's live. Making a film or doing a TV show is a challenge, but to be in a play, it's happening in real time. And the audience is different every night, so it's never exactly the same. It's a high I like to get. It's sometimes frightening, and I think, oh my, why am I doing this? This is terrifying. But then I get out on the stage, and it's exciting, and I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like skydiving somehow. I fear on your way down. It's just flying around though, free fall. A film, they can cut this, they cut that, they don't use that take, what you thought was wonderful, there's no control for an actor. But I guess I'm a control freak, so I go for the theater. Yeah.
And talking about the theater, obviously Tony Award winner for 1995 for Love, Valor, Compassion. You then went on, I think, with nearly everyone in the cast except Nathan Lane to do the movie in 1997. Yeah. So talking about, again, as we just mentioned, the transition from stage to film, that must have been a very interesting transition to take the role you had there, got the Tony Award for, and then take that to the movie with the rest of your cast. Yeah,
it was nice. It was very nice to get to do that. And with Jason Alexander, who's no slouch, he took Nathan's role. So we had a great time. But the stage play is more exciting because of imagination. It's about a bunch of gay men who go up to this house for the holidays of the summer. But on stage, there was no house. There was just a platform with like a rolling green. And the audience imagined what the house was. And we talked to the audience. So we lost a lot. I'm not saying the movie's not good, but it lacks the excitement and the intimacy and the imagination that the play had. So that happens often, when they take a play and film it. Sometimes it gets better and sometimes it doesn't work as well. I don't want to put it down. It's a wonderful film, but it was never as exciting as the play was every night.
And we mentioned Nathan Lane and Jason Alexander from Love, Valor, Compassion. All the other stars you've worked with in TV and movies. You've got Anne Margaret from 52 Pickup to Bill Murray and Scrooged. Just such an amazing cast of people you work with. Ned Beatty,
Jane Fonda in Julia, and Vanessa Redgrave,
Helen Mirren, obviously from White Nights, but
and Baryshnikov. One of the most thrilling things about it was when we were in Portugal, we all went to a bullfight. So to sit at a bullfight next to Baryshnikov and watch the matadors was quite an experience. And Gregory Hines, God rest his soul. He's just got a stamp, U.S. stamp.
That's right. I think I saw that at the post office. I was just in there, and they had all the celebrity stamps. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get Greg?
I don't think I did. I used to collect stamps when I was little, and I haven't picked it back up. And I always see stamps, so it's always one of those things I see. It's like, oh, those are really cool. And I've got to almost physically stop myself from buying stuff because my wife says I have too much clutter around the house. So I'm trying to be better.
I suffer that too. Yeah. I love clutter. I love things. I'm trying to get off them, give them away. Ellen Burstyn was doing that when I did a play with her. She said, I gotta get rid of stuff. So she gave us all opening night gifts, which were things from her basement or attic, I think.
And with all the people you've worked with, like I said, you just told the stories about Baryshnikov at a bullfight. And do you have a favorite memory? I like I said, we could probably keep you on here for 3 hours talking about all the people you've interacted with. Anything particular, one of your favorite moments from a film or TV you've done with an intimate moment with another actor, or a moment you can share with us?
The film Julia, that was about Lillian Hellman from her book Penimento. I had a scene with Jane Fonda in a bar very late at night up in Harlem. And at the end of the scene, I insult her by saying that, she's probably slept with some women of her own, And at the end of the scene, she stands up from the table and goes and slaps me in the face. And as we were playing the scene and she's getting up, coming toward me, I thought, oh no, I forgot to tell her she could hit me as hard as she wanted to. But I didn't need to tell her. She hit me, and I knew what it was like. She knocked me out. Because as I went back in my chair, you can see it in the film, and it happens like that. but it seemed like it took a minute and a half to go back, and I literally saw stars. So I guess that was my most memorable moment. She gave me a slap on the face. It was like I was out like a light, just for a minute, and then I came back.
So, like I said, these stories you're telling, I could probably keep you on here for several hours. Have you given any thought to writing down? Is there memoirs or anything like that in the works? Because I'm sure you could easily fill a novel with all the stories, the people you've interacted with, the movies and stage productions you've been in.
Yeah, I don't write. No, I'm an interpretive artist. Somebody will write it, I'll read it, but I don't, or I'll read it out loud. I used to do books too. You know the feeling of what it's like when they stick a 500-page book in front of you, in front of a microphone, and you know that you're going to spend 2 or 3 days reading this out loud. It's very intimidating.
It's not as, I guess, easy, like you said, being interpretive. I suppose you want to, as an actor of the stage, you want to do more with your voice and your body, than you're kind of limited, I guess, when you're just reading a book there in front of a microphone, yeah?
Right. And it does seem endless. It's like you take a big book and read it. You know, you read a little here, a little there before you go to bed at night, turn your light out. But to know that you're going to be there for maybe 8 hours, 2 or 3 days, reading this out loud gets very tiring. The best
to at
one
least
I did,
pick the books that are given to you, or is it just something like, hey, we want John Glover to read this book? Do you have to kind of go with the job?
I don't know how it would happen. I just get a phone call saying, you've been offered a book. So they send it to you, and you read it and make little notes on it, and then you read it out loud, and hopefully you'll not make too many mistakes. But then they go back and redo it. The best was I can't remember his name. Never mind. Names and Knees. They're the first to go when you get old. Names and Knees. So I'm having trouble with names now. My knees are okay, but they'll start going soon. Yeah. Who knows? Of the two,
aging, I guess as long as you're mobile, I think I'd rather have the knees, I guess, if that was your choice first, right?
Yeah.
And doing the voiceovers for the book, obviously, famously voiced Edward Nygma the Riddler in the groundbreaking Batman the Animated Series. You were voice directed by Andrea Romano, who we've actually had on the show before, and she's wonderful. She always talks fondly about working on Batman the Animated Series. How was that experience for you, doing the voiceover for such an iconic character as the Riddler?
And we'll hear John Glover's answer to that question about playing the Riddler right after this. Stand by.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Still get chills every time I hear that voice. The definitive Batman, Kevin Conroy. And we're talking to one of the definitive Riddlers, John Glover. We'd asked him right before we went to break how he found playing Edward Nygma in Batman the Animated Series.
Well, I'm not a comic person, which is funny because, I was there on Smallville doing Clark Kent stuff, the Batman and Robin, but I didn't read any of those things when I was a kid. I stayed away from those superheroes. So the studio that we recorded the Batman animated series was just a walk from my house. And I only did 3 episodes, so I would walk over. And Kevin and I had been down at the Old Globe. We were in King Lear together in The Country Wife, so I knew him from the stage, Shakespeare. So that was nice to see him. And Andrea, she's a genius. She gets the whole company and puts a little arc of microphones around. So you're all standing there and you're reading a play. It's like you're acting together with a bunch of actors. So 3 times I would walk over. I never knew when it was on, so I never watched it. I just had fun with playing with the other actors. See, all these things Andrea had me in to do, but I don't even remember what they were because what was Shiny Pants on? It was a character named Shiny Pants. It's also ridiculous. And I had no idea it was so popular. I missed that ride. But I'm getting to see it now when I go to we were in Louisville, and I saw the fans and how much these things meant to them. And it's very moving to see you have an effect on people by something that brings me such joy, which is telling stories, but to see that the way they took the story and feel so passionate about it. It's very heartwarming, and it lets me know that it's not my vanity means something else to other people. So it's a very moving experience that I see these fans at the cons, the different cons, conventions, I guess, right?
Yeah, Comic Cons, conventions, yeah. And I know you've actively on Twitter. I know anytime they have a Smallville, it's kind of nice to see you up there with Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum. And I think Kristen Crook is now doing one in Fan Expo Dallas. So I'm hoping that they'll add you to that as well.
Well, time will tell. Time will tell. I'm here and available. Except I'm going to start a play pretty soon, right in March. It's called All Our Children. We're doing it at the Sheen Center in a Broadway theater in New York. It's about the 30s in Nazi-ridden Germany, about a children's hospital that has been changed. It's a devastating play, but it's a story that needs to be told right now. It's a big parallel with what's happening here in the United States.
And with your Tony Award, and you're doing multiple stage plays, it seems like you're hitting both coasts, and you still go back to your alma mater to mentor the people in that program. Do you have to audition for shows anymore, or do people reach out to you and say, hey, we have this great show, we're going to be doing it in New York in March, we want you to for this part? How does the process work for you at this point? I
got a phone call from my agent that said you've been made an offer. I said, if I have to go to audition, I don't seem to get them anymore. So I get things by knowing my work. I guess I've forgotten how to audition. I don't know. I have no idea. It's very strange, but I'll take it.
Do you know when that play goes up, or are you just starting rehearsals in March?
We start rehearsals in March. It'll start playing, I think, sometime in April and go through sometime in May. It's called All Our Children, again, and it's quite devastating, to say the least. But it's worthwhile and get you thinking.
Yeah. For those of us who are following you on Twitter, it's at Real John Glover. I assume you'll post updates so we can kind of keep track, and anyone in the New York area listening can certainly get tickets for that. That would be amazing to see you on stage and something like that.
Sure, that'd be great.
And of course, we can't not talk about Smallville. It was a decade of your life that people just love your character. That was such a groundbreaking show. And now, especially in this time when we're seeing a enormous spread of live action superhero shows on the CW with the Flash and Arrow, Smallville was kind of what jump-started it really in a lot of people's minds and opinions. Taking on that character of Lionel Luthor, how was that? Where did you kind of go to find that? Not being a comic book person and having source material, where did you kind of draw from to create Lionel Luthor?
Well, he's never mentioned in the comic books, so there were no restrictions. He could be whatever we wanted him to be, and why? At a certain point, people used to stop me on the street and say, "Listen, we love Smallville, and you're great to watch, but I'm confused. Are you supposed to be a good guy or a bad guy?" And that's when I knew that I had created something that was kind of unique, because I think he started out written as just an evil father, but I wanted to put more love for Lex into the character. So I gave him shock treatment. But I was trying to make him, in my mind, I was just trying to make my son stronger. They were all lessons to give him a backbone. But it worked. So people didn't know whether I was supposed to be a good guy or a bad guy. So that, to me, was the best compliment I think I could have ever gotten.
And with all the TV shows you've done, we mentioned, obviously, Smallville, Batman, the animated series, but you've done voice work on Animaniacs, your roles on Tales from the Crypt, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, all these iconic TV shows, and you're obviously incredibly recognizable from your movies as well. You tend to play a lot of times a villainous type character. Is it true that that's kind of a more fun role to play? Is it more fun to play the villain than the hero generally?
Oh, sure. Because the villain is the active force usually in a story, and they can be kind of neurotic and off kilter and everything. 52 Pickup was a great villain's role. Elmore Leonard and Margaret, they just go together somehow. John Frankenheimer directed that movie, and I had the best time. But I had no idea when I read it what it was. I called my dad to tell him I'd got a movie. It was called 52 Pickup, and he was a great reader. So he went, "Oh yeah, Elmore Leonard, great writer, great writer." So I just reread that book till sort of that character was down in my soul. But poor Anne Margaret, she She said, "You remind me so much of one of my dancers who I love so much, and I'm not really a trained actress. So could you just please stay in character when we're on the set together?" I thought Anne Margaret and I were going to bond, but I think I freaked her out because of the things I had to do to her were so terrible. She's a beautiful woman and so kind and generous. None like her. Well, they're a lot like her, I'm finding. These women actresses. Lee Remick was like that. I became very good friends with Lee Remick after we did the miniseries Nutcracker, about a woman who gets her son to kill her father for the inheritance. It's a true story. But Lee, I thought, my God, we're supposed to be best friends. How's that going to happen? But it took no time. She just was this just wonderful, beautiful, generous, open to everybody woman who loved life. It got taken from her at age 55.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I know
Yes.
some of the villains you played have been a little more comical. Obviously, Bryce Cummings from Scrooged. I put that on my DVD player every Christmas. It gets watched every Christmas. I'm wearing out the DVD, I think. Gremlins 2, you played Daniel Clamp. And again, you and I talked before we started recording, so we're not doing political things per se, but obviously Daniel Clamp, a takeoff on Donald Trump. With Gremlins 3 has been kind of kicked around as where they want to go. It was originally a reboot. They're saying now they'd like it to actually be the third part in a trilogy, which we're seeing a lot of movies do, like with Blade Runner coming 30 years after the fact. So why not Gremlins 3?
Really?
If that was offered to you to reprise the role of Daniel Clamp and kind of a Gremlins as a President Clamp, would that be something you'd be up for?
And we're going to get John Glover's answer to that question about Gremlins 3. Will we get one? We should. Right after this. Stand by.
This is Michael Rosenbaum. You might know me as Lex Luthor or Martin X from Guardians of the Galaxy, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio. Why am I talking like this?
We are back. Very jealous of those of you who might be up in Wizard World Cleveland right now, because Michael Rosenbaum and John Glover are both up there with Tom Welling doing a Smallville reunion at Wizard World Cleveland. We had the chance to talk with John Glover on this program, and just a fantastic interview. I've enjoyed the heck out of talking to him. Right before we went to break, we were asking him if we got a Gremlins 3, which I really would love to see, would he be up for coming back as now President Clamp?
Sure, in the New York Minute. I wonder, did you read about this, or are you just making this up?
No, I've actually, the name's escaping me now. See, my names are not doing me any better than yours are. The guy who played Billy in Gremlins, he was in an interview, because I know it's been kind of assigned to different directors and writers and the people wanting to go forward with it. But the gentleman who played Billy in the first two, he said he would love to see it just a continuation where it's now he is working for now President Clamp, and that was kind of picked up by a couple different news sources as a possible direction.
Oh, I'd love to do that, but they'd get Alec Baldwin for that.
He's doing it now on Saturday Night Live, so yeah, I know you. Yes,
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
that's my question. You were already a shoo-in. Would you have to audition against Alec Baldwin?
Well, I should call Joe Dante and see if he'd hire me, or they'd have to hire me, because they couldn't have the Saturday Night Live guy. Who am I to say who couldn't have?
Oh, it's great to see the original cast come back. So that, like I said, I would think certainly Joe would be calling you up if they go that route with the third movie.
Well, I'm calling him up when we hang up. See what's happening.
Please tell him I said hello. He doesn't know me, but that'd be great. I'm 1 degree of separation now.
I tell him you said hello anyway. All right.
Perfect. How have you found the convention circuit now that you're wading into it? Has it just been everything you always thought it would be? Just this joy of fans rushing to meet you?
Well, I had such a good time both in Louisville. The first one I did was in L.A., so that's when it started. Right before then, and then this thing in Louisville. I mean, there were people who came back the next day to say hello. I mean, I had such a good time talking to people. It just was amazing. I just had a blast. And they were all so loving and everything. Those cons are strange. When we did Smallville, we went to the Comic-Con down in San Diego. But we were so kept away, and it was so huge that we really didn't get a chance to meet with people like I did at the Louisville and the L.A. one. And there was also one in Cleveland, I think we're going to go to.
Yeah. Wizard
The
World
whole
in
world.
Cleveland. I think you'll be up there again with Michael Rosenbaum, I believe, and Tom Welling are also doing that one.
Michael and Tom, yeah. I've only seen Michael and Tom work together, but apparently they're like Martin and Lewis, I've been told, when they get on that stage together. I guess Michael is Dean Martin. No, Michael would be Jerry Lewis, the funny guy, and Tom's the straight man.
Yeah, Michael's been on the show with us before too, and he's definitely the comic.
I'll say, yeah, I love Michael. We had a great time working together.
So with
Michael
all that,
ruled.
like you've got all this going on, you've got the play in New York, you're doing these conventions. What do you like to do in your spare time when you're just kind of hanging out? What do you? I know you're a bit of a movie buff, a classic movie buff, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That's true. I also knit scarves. Very relaxing. Annette O'Toole taught me to, when we were doing Smallville, we were starting to raise money for Alzheimer's. My dad has a dementia. So Annette suggested that we make an Afghan. So she gave each person in the company enough yarn as we went on hiatus to make a little square. So we made an Afghan, but a lot of, like Lana, Kristen, she didn't do her little square. So long time ago, back in the 60s, I learned to knit. So Annette re-taught me. So that's when I started knitting. We made a lot of money with that Afghan, too. Tom donated his bicycle that he used to ride to the different sound stages when we were shooting. So the whole company went behind Alzheimer's, and we did good that year. And then Warner Brothers said, no, you can't do that anymore. So I guess they didn't know about it. And when they found out, they said, okay, finish, but no more.
And that's still a charity that you work with quite closely, the Alzheimer's Association, correct?
I try to, sure, yeah. I hope we come closer and closer to finding some cure. It's a devastating disease, mostly for family members who lose touch with their relatives, their parents,
Yeah, I had a great aunt who suffered from it, and it's hard to watch someone you love go through that.
Yes, just kind of disappear, yeah.
And it's always very sad to hear about things like that. Just put it out there. If you would love to donate, it's alz.org for the National Alzheimer's Association. You can go there and make a donation. It is very sad that these things happen to people we love. And like John said, and with my great aunt, it's one of those things we'd love to see a cure come around for. So alz.org is the website for the National Alzheimer's Association. We're going to take our next break. We're going to come back with some listener questions asked to John Glover right after this. Stand by.
Why, hello, this is Scott Innes, better known as the voice of Scooby-Dooby-Doo, like in Shaggy Doo, in Scrappy-Doo, in like you're listening to Geek to Me Radio. Right, Uncle Scoob? Right, Rappy? Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
The voice of Scott Innes. We mentioned that John Glover and Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling are all up at Wizard World Cleveland. Wizard World St. Louis right around the corner. Scott Innes will be here in St. Louis live. You can have him do a voice recording for you, get your picture taken, get an autograph. Scott Innes, we had that recording last week. If you didn't get to hear it, you can go back and check out all of our archived version. Go to geektomeradio.com, click the YouTube link if you'd like to hear it through your YouTube channel. And, of course, find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you get your podcast from to hear last week's show or any of our previous shows. Right before we went to break, we're wrapping it up with John Glover. We had some listener questions come in on Twitter, and he was kind enough to answer those.
We've got, I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but we've got a couple people on Twitter who are asking questions. We've got @NerdsChatting on Twitter, wanted to know what your favorite scene was as an actor doing Smallville. Did you have a favorite scene?
Not a scene per se, but there was when I started my relationship with Martha, with Annette O'Toole, it was very interesting what we did because we sort of fell in love, the characters. And I'd been responsible for her husband's death. I mean, it's so bizarre. One of the hardest episodes for me, though, was the one where Clark and I change bodies.
Yes.
So it was when I was in prison. So I don't know. It was just very hard for me to sort of play this leading man kind of thing because Tom seemingly didn't do much. And Lionel was full of strange tics and mannerisms. So Tom played the crap out of me. He was wonderful. And I felt very uncomfortable sort of just standing, letting what Tom did so well. It was very difficult for me to uncomplicate the character and just be.
Feel any better? Because I've gone back and watched that series several times. I think you did a great job. You just came forth as very earnest. It was literally like, I think both of you did great. It was like you were inhabiting each other's bodies. But no, you were, performance seemed very earnest and like you were Tom Welling trapped in Lionel Luthor's body. I think you did a fantastic job as an outsider looking on, and for what my opinion's worth.
Just for that today, I'm glad we're having this phone call, because I've always thought I was terrible being Tom. Well, thank you, though. I appreciate the compliment.
And I've got one more question I'll leave you with. We have at Nick Rowan 16. Actually, he asked what your upcoming plans were, and we touched on you're doing this show in New York. Let's see if there's another one, because we've answered a couple of these already, actually. At Bill Lonergan, NJ, wanted to know if you had any interesting anecdotes or memories from the set of Batman and Robin, directed by Joel Schumacher.
Right. Well, I was kissed to death by Poison Ivy, who was Uma Thurman.
What a way to go.
I guess that would be a very memorable thing for me. I just, we couldn't get it right. We had to redo it. And I thought, oh my God, do I have to teach her how to kiss too? I'm joking. But we did do it several times. It was quite delightful.
Well, this has been such a pleasure to speak with you. I've been a longtime admirer. Like I said, I've grew up watching you, all these movies and TV shows you've done. You've been such an integral part of my childhood. I want to thank you for all the art you've given us and continue to do. I'm in awe of your body of work, and it's been such a pleasure for me to speak with you for our show today.
Well, thank you so much. I've loved talking to you, reminiscing, and then you boosted up my ego. I appreciate that too. Thank you.
There it is, John Glover. Such a fantastically talented guy and so humble. It was such a pleasure to talk to him. You just get this warm feeling after you talk to him. I'm looking forward to meeting up with him in an upcoming con. He's got some more coming up later this year. And, of course, if you're in the New York area, go see him on stage. You get this chance to do so in March and April here with his play that we mentioned. You can follow him on Twitter at RealJohnGlover as well, of course. Interesting week it's been. We've got some new movies coming out. Captain Marvel hits theaters, or I should say it's already hit theaters now. If you had the chance to see it, we did. We saw a preview, sneak screening of it on Tuesday night. And once again, Marvel proves that they just keep making hit after hit. There's only been a few movies that I wasn't wild about. The second Thor movie wasn't great. Ant-Man and the Wasp was good, but probably one of my less favorite. This one, though, is right up there. It was a very complex character. If you're familiar with Carol Danvers in comic book history, she has a very complex backstory about her different forms and different power sets and everything like that. And they did a very good job of succinctly kind of wrapping everything up into one neat package. And some of the reviews have not been nice. I know some people have been putting up fake reviews who probably didn't even see the movie. Joey, you keep track of the reviews and everything like that. Have you seen anything that has swayed you one way or the other on the film?
Well, I use this app called Letterboxd, and it lets me track my critics all in one place, and I can see, right when they've gone to a screening, they'll usually post something. And a couple people that I follow, David Ehrlich and who else? Matt Singer. They didn't give it the glowingest of reviews. And, of course, I work here with Max on Movies, and, he's not a huge Marvel fan in general. But everyone that I've talked to is just in awe of your boyish excitement to see these Marvel movies. So I only care about what you have to say.
It's a really good movie. The screening we had was not in 3D or anything like that. I'm assuming it might be even better because some of the space special effects were really well done. The cast was great. I liked it. I don't know why it's getting so much hate. Was it a perfect movie? No. It had some flaws in it here and there, but I think it's one of those, if you're going to believe that some person has space powers and can hold their breath in space and fly at the speed of light, why can't you believe this happened or this happened? I don't know. It's some of the reviews have been kind of weird. I know there's been a lot of talk with Rotten Tomatoes phoning in their reviews and kind of giving certain studios certain praise so they can get something more out of it, which is sad. And I know Rotten Tomatoes has taken a lot of flack lately. Not that something I've ever used to score my movies, going by what they say. But it's always interesting. Everyone has an opinion, and social media has only magnified that. For my money, Captain Marvel's a great movie. If you get a chance to go out and see it, you should do so. I know I'm going to take my wife to see it here again coming up pretty soon. So you'll have to let me know what you think when you do finally see it.
Yeah, I know that just looking at the directors, what is it? I've got them pulled up here. They're like real indie type people. These Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. Like, if you go and look at what they've made, I love these movies, but I don't think anyone has really heard of them. Sugar, I think that's about a kid who plays baseball. It's kind of a funny story with Zach Galifianakis being a serious guy, and Half Nelson, that's like, was it Ryan Gosling playing a drug-addicted teacher? Those are little movies that I loved, and just knowing that these two directors got millions of dollars to make this big action movie. I'm excited to see just what they do.
Yeah, I think it was well done. Like I said, not every movie has to be directed by a Spielberg in order to be good. They did a great job, I think, like I said, with the story. They also co-wrote it and co-directed it. And I think they did, a really good job of mashing a lot of this character's 42-year history down into a single movie. It was really good. So I'd recommend going and seeing Captain Marvel. We're going to take our last break, come back and wrap things up right after this. Stand by.
Hi, this is John Glover, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio. I love a good geek.
My guest this past show, John Glover, tremendous individual, absolutely fabulously talented, and it was my pleasure to speak with him. Thank you to him for coming on the show and sharing some time with us. It was a really, really great interview. I loved hearing all the stories. I probably could have had him on for another couple of hours. Was the show able to go that long? This show, and of course, the entirety of this show, brought to you by DiscoverStCharles.com. That's the city of St. Charles and the Historic District. The Convention and Visitors Bureau have been with my show since the beginning. They were the first people to jump on board and said, yes, we will sponsor your show, and I owe them a great debt for that. The show wouldn't be possible without them, literally. And if you've ever been down to St. Charles, you know exactly how amazing it is down there. All the old buildings, there's so much atmosphere. Just if you're looking for something unique, if you want a unique shopping and you try to find something you can't get anywhere else, probably one of the stores along Main Street has it for you. If you like antiquing, right there in the antique district on 3rd Street, they've got a lot of little antique shops, 3rd and 2nd Street. If you're a history buff, the old buildings that just, like I said, the ooze atmosphere, you can spend time out there at one of their festivals. Their sesquicentennial is coming up. 250 years since the founding. They've got a big to-do going on the middle of May. You can check out the website for more information on that. And, of course, their Christmas Traditions that goes every year. The largest and longest-running Christmas festival in the country takes place starting the day after Thanksgiving, going through Christmas Eve-ish, depending on when the day falls. Fantastic time there. And, of course, their Legends and Lanterns. If you're a Halloween fan like I am, that's the place you want to go. You can interact with living history characters like Lizzie Borden, the Phantom of the Opera, Baron Samedi, and more. Always something cool to do. And if you're a foodie, you got to go hit St. Charles. All sorts of cool places. Homemade blackberry cobbler at Magpies. You can go down the street to the Little O's for a gooey butter milkshake. There's Riverside Sweets. There's Trailhead, Lewis and Clark. A lot of great places to eat up and down the street. It's a fantastic time. Spring's right around the corner. I promise it doesn't feel like it now with the cold temperatures. Right around the corner. Take your dog out for a walk. Take your cat out for a walk if he's into that. And, of course, if you're a Pokemon Go player, also like I am, tons of Pokestops. You can go catch them all right there in historic Main Street. Check out the website, DiscoverStCharles.com. Plan your trip now. As we wrap things up, I want to remind you that you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GeekToMeRadio. And, of course, hit the website, geektomeradio.com. Click that YouTube link, subscribe there, and you can check out Joey V is always putting up my shows after they air. Looks really cool. You can upload it there. That way, if you're just at your work, plug your headphones in, listen to it right there on the computer. Also want to mention that if you are an advertiser looking to grow, maybe get your business in front of some more people, we're looking to expand the show. That's going to mean that we're going to have to bring on some more new sponsors. So you can reach out to me, James at geektomeradio.com. Let me know if you have a business idea you'd like to advertise. We can do it across social media. We can do it right here on the air. All the spots we do get uploaded and archived in podcast for perpetuity. So there's lots of different packages we can arrange, branded tweeting and more. Email me, James at geektomeradio.com. That is going to wrap it up for this edition of Geek to Me Radio. Thank you once again to my guest, John Glover, for being so wonderful. And hopefully we'll catch up with him at a con coming up soon. Until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you want to try zombie. It's not This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Smallville. Good night.